I agreed with Glenn about the Tri-County building. It's not ideal for Mr. Fox, that's clear. It looks like the expansion as far as, well, everything, I'll just echo everything Glenn said and Mr. Wolfer said. Expansion, future plans as far as new building, edge of town, filtration. I think we're all agreed on all these points. If I may say so, I do appreciate the effort to have the special meeting. I really enjoy getting that information that way. I did appreciate the effort, and I say thank you.
Unless there's questions about the building per se, I could address a little bit about, we've done some preliminary work on the financing, because I know that's always been a question in everybody's mind. Can we afford it, that type of thing. So if I may, right here. I just got some handouts, and I'll just try to summarize. I haven't had a lot of time to develop this, so I apologize, but it'll give you a start on this. Staff has been to, has researched at every spot we could find what was available, and certainly some of the major places that have money generally for these kinds of things would be like the USDA. We've gone through all of their programs and resources, and the closest one we could find is like got a 2-year window of opportunity, which is probably well beyond what we're looking at here, and that was limited to $750,000. So in effect, I found nothing available there directly. Went to deed, as they tell me, they're tapped out, all their funds, and so at this point they could not assist us in Rushford with anything additional. And so then I called after that Mike Rubani, and he has done the financial planning and assisted with bond sales as a financial consultant with the city of Rushford. And so he's fairly familiar because he just got done going through the city finances and doing the projections to see where we're going to be at with taxes, rates of services, and in there we had built in roughly an unknown project sometime in 2011. We didn't know if it was going to be a street project, could be this project, could be some project. We just built into the cash needs of the city roughly, I think it was 1.5 million. So my goal here at 1.6 is close enough for government work, as they say, to be relevant. And so what he was happy about is we're not changing the needs of the city. What the council will have to decide at some point, or could decide, is this is important to do. Do we have the wherewithal to do it? Or would we rather do another street construction project? Right, that type of thing. And of course, every year as the tax base changes, and hopefully there's growth of the tax base as well as greater revenues collected from industry in the community, all these numbers will change. But right now, looking at the current ledger, he feels confident that he can devise either one of these plans. And I'll just run through them real quickly. One, each has its advantages. So in the end, the number 2 one, where it says easiest, of course, implies that that's the one with the least amount of issues and problems that you got to overcome. But let's look at number 1 first. His first solution was an EDA would issue, with the city council's approval and blessing, what's called a revenue note. So they would place that for private placement with, let's say, the 2 banks in town, and those 2 banks or 3 banks, whatever we want to go to, would then each take a portion of a revenue note. The revenues would be the future collection of debt that we have from the loan program, and we can easily show what that is on paper. Now, of course, it's as good as the businesses we're going to collect it from, and so the vitality of the community, all that is tied to how much would somebody believe that cash flow statement. But it's like anything else, a business has a projection of cash flows it's going to collect, and we would certainly share that with them. He's estimating the rate would be somewhere between 6 and 7%. It'd be fully taxable, and more likely would involve some kind of variable rate so that the banks could adjust their rate depending on what happens with the future economy. The upfront city cash, there would, in this kind of a case, the city would, or EDA, or both, would have to put cash in, and he was just estimating on this size, $300,000 in. Currently, I believe we're sitting on about 450, so cash-wise, we actually do have the cash to be able to do this if we wanted to. Then he would approach the private banking institutions, and let's say in this case he offers each one $650,000 to contribute for the good of the community and collect interest at 6-7%, and they would loan that money, and then we would build the building. And he would probably also consider setting up a TIF district, which he could set up for 9 years to assist with any other issues we had with the property, and he was just giving us a cover for things that we haven't thought about. So that's essentially that role. Again, the real keys are, one, you got to lay down the money up front, so you got $300,000 cash tied in, and two, you've got to convince two, or have him convince two private banking institutions that they should each do $650, because one will probably not do everything, but there are breaks for banks to do this, supporting issues of the community, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the general idea of the revenue bill. But a lot of work, because you got a lot of things you got to keep going together. The second one is that the city would issue what's called a general obligation pledge, and the projected interest rate here would be 5 to 5.5% taxable, which would have a fixed rate. So he would suggest in this case probably 20 years. The upfront city cash needed technically could be 0 if you wanted, and again this is at 1.6. So let's say we had a $1.8 million project, then maybe we need to put some cash in to make this work. But we'd have to do more cash up top too also if it's 1.8, because we're only thinking 1.6 here. They would then issue TIF bonds, and they would either be privately negotiated or competitively bid and sold. There would be a general obligation TIF district, and it would have to at least cover 20% of the project, which he doesn't think would be a problem. And then just my notes down below, how long does it take to establish this TIF district? On the normal side, he says it's 2 months. He's done them as short as 1 month, but you get an idea that it's not just like, well, tomorrow let's have one. We gotta have a little time to plan this stuff out. And then we talked about the city's last bond rating, which was A+, and what might increased debt do if issued. Could institutions that are now bidding on additional debt or looking at the city, would they might adjust our debt ratio? And he thought worst case scenario it might drop to an A. But he didn't anticipate it would drop, but it could. And if it did, it's not going to drop very far. So the nut of all this is that the initial research shows that there are no pots of money just sitting around for cities like Rushford to get assistance. In the past, sometimes DEED has found money to help communities build buildings. That's not going to happen in the current climate, but we do have both methods available to us. And as far as the overall finances of the city, I believe, based on where we're at, we have within our wherewithal to do this project if that becomes something we want to do as a community. Now, it may need changing some other, future obligations or things we want to do, but that's, those are choices. Okay? Questions on those?
Wendy, when you're talking about the 1.6 million with Mike, I thought we had where we had that capability, and I thought it was closer to a $2 million figure of what was debt retiring. So we had that ability to to basically stay on par with what we were the year prior and being able to put out obligation bonds for close to $2 million, no increase. So
We do, but we need to reserve some for the levy recertification. And so I think, council would put that as the highest priority, as they should. And then it would be, okay, if we got that covered, can we do more?